Molly is a friend. Molly is a co-worker.
The drama between StephenASmith and Molly Qerim has turned into one of the most shocking behind-the-scenes stories ESPN has ever faced.
This was an abrupt landing. This is an emergency exit. This is an emergency landing. This is one of those for a
What began as a professional partnership built over 10 years on First Take has spiraled into a storm of betrayal, ego, and hypocrisy that no one saw coming. It all started quietly on a Monday morning, September 15, 2025. Molly walked into the ESPN studios like it was any other day. She sat in her familiar chair, smiled for the camera, and hosted the show as she always had. What she didn't know was that it would be her last time ever doing so. That evening, the Sports Business Journal dropped a bombshell. Molly Qerim was leaving ESPN immediately after failed contract negotiations. The news hit like a thunderclap. Viewers were stunned. There had been no farewell, no sign of friction, no indication that something was wrong. Even ESPN's president admitted the timing was unexpected and outside their control. What was supposed to be a calm transition turned into what insiders called an emergency exit. She was gone overnight, no goodbye segment, no on-air send-off, nothing. The next morning, viewers tuned in expecting to see Molly. Instead, StephenASmith sat alone at the desk, visibly emotional. With a somber tone, he announced that Molly had abruptly resigned.
On the show for the last 10 years. And a lot of times some of these things happen and it's just uncomfortable.
Asking fans to respect her privacy. At first, it sounded heartfelt. But then he began to talk about contracts, negotiations, and behind-the-scenes issues, making public what he just claimed was private. The contradiction wasn't lost on viewers. People started questioning whether Stephen A. was really being respectful or subtly throwing shade on live television. And the silence that followed from Molly was deafening. When she released her farewell statement, she thanked producers, the crew, and her supporters, but never mentioned StephenASmith. Not once. For someone she'd worked beside for 10 years, that omission spoke volumes. In television culture, silence can be louder than words, and this silence was explosive. It told the world that something between them had gone deeply wrong. Former ESPN host Marcellus Wiley, who knew the network's politics better than most, didn't hold back. He said outright that this wasn't about money, it was personal. Something powerful had pushed Molly out. But others suggested the opposite, that Molly's departure wasn't a breakdown at all, but a power move. By walking away suddenly, she forced ESPN and Stephen A. to show what First Take looked like without her. It was a statement. You think I'm replaceable? Watch what happens when I'm gone. For years, Molly had been the moderator, the steady balance in a show dominated by Stephen A.'s personality. She held the chaos together, guided conversations, kept the energy flowing. But ESPN was paying her only $500,000 a year, while her peers and co-hosts were earning millions. When Fox Sports offered her $2 million a year for 3 years, she gave ESPN the chance to match it. They refused. That's when Molly decided she was done being undervalued. But here's the twist, Stephen A. wasn't just her co-host. He was also the executive producer of First Take, which meant he had direct influence over hiring, firing, and salaries. Molly wasn't just negotiating with ESPN, she was negotiating with her own coworker. Imagine sitting next to someone every day, knowing that person holds the power to decide your worth. That imbalance was toxic. And as history shows, every major figure who's worked closely with Stephen A. has eventually left. Carrie Champion, Max Kellerman, Shannon Sharpe, all gone after professional tension. Then came the hypocrisy that set the internet ablaze. Days after insisting he wouldn't speak on Molly's situation, Stephen A. used his podcast to do just that, talking vaguely about people overestimating their worth and needing to stay humble. He didn't name her, but everyone knew who he meant. The irony? Just a year earlier, Stephen A. himself had publicly demanded $25 million a year from ESPN. When they offered $18 million, he said no, turning his contract talks into a media circus. He compared himself to Patrick Mahomes and declared he deserved athlete money. But now when Molly asked for a raise from $500,000 to $2 million, she was suddenly overestimating her value. The double standard was glaring. Men could demand respect and get celebrated for it. Women were told to be grateful for what they had. Stephen A. once got fired from ESPN for letting ego destroy his career, then rehired for even more money. Meanwhile, Molly stood up for herself and got pushed out the door. The message was clear: know your place or else. Analysts like Emmanuel Aiko called Stephen A. out directly. On his Speak Easy podcast, he pointed out how Stephen claimed to protect Molly's privacy, only to leak details on his own show. He called it shameless, accusing Stephen A. of using Molly's situation for views while pretending to take the moral high ground. Even Marcellus Wiley added that Stephen had turned his own co-host's pain into content, profiting off her departure while preaching humility. And maybe that's the most heartbreaking part of all. For 10 years, Molly had been Stephen A.'s partner on air, holding him down, giving balance to his brand. When she needed support, he didn't defend her, he monetized her exit. He got clicks at her expense. As Marcellus put it best, don't get clicks at the cost of the person who helped you build your empire. Today, Stephen A. stands as one of ESPN's highest paid figures, earning over $20 million a year. Molly, meanwhile, has signed a far better deal with Fox, $6 million guaranteed, and a fresh start free from the shadows of someone else's ego. And maybe that's justice in its purest form. Because in the end, power and money might protect reputations for a while, but truth always wins. Stephen A. preaches humility while practicing manipulation. He talks about respect while exploiting others for profit. Molly Qerim walked away not just from ESPN, but from a system that never saw her worth. She left with her dignity intact, and that's something money can't buy. So what do you think? Was Molly's exit a bold act of defiance, or the result of betrayal from someone she trusted? And did Stephen A. Smith expose his own hypocrisy in the process? Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and if you want more deep dives into stories like this, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.